My name is Adrianna. I am the state coordinator for Worldwide Fund for Nature in Goa. Today we have a very special panel amongst us, and this is part of the Miramar dialogue. So this Miramar dialogues, because WWF has been in Goa for almost 40 years. So this is the 40th year of WWF in Goa. And we started our work working with children a long time back, nature camps, nature trails. Then we went on, last 10-15 years we moved a bit away from that and went to marine conservation. We started working on the coral reefs. We started working on different species of sharks and different critical habitats and different endangered species. But then we recently we came to the thought came to our mind that there is not a single platform in Goa. There are various organizations, there are various stakeholders who are working on different subjects, different niches, but there is not a single kind of a platform where all sorts of different subjects and all sorts of different views are taken into consideration. And that's why we started. That's why we thought of starting an initiative or a campaign, 2-month-long campaign, which is called Miramar Dialogues. And we started early in the month of December. We had a couple of talks, a couple of panel discussions there. And now we have come to this new year, and we have a very wonderful panel here. So we have, of course, Norma. We have here. Everybody knows her, and we also with her we have 2 young moderators. Of course, Lisha is going to introduce all of them, but the 2 young moderators, they have been, you might wonder why they have been chosen, how they have come here. So WWF-India has a yearly quiz competition. It's an international quiz competition where, from each state there are a couple of champions which go to the national level, and from the winners of the Indian contest go to the international level. So out of the 30 schools which participated in Goa, Vidya Vikas Academy was the winner, and these are our 2 champions. And we thought, what better, than to have this 2 here, ask some questions to Norma, and it will be apt for the title of the panel, which is Conservation Lessons for the Generation Next. So now I request Lisha to take it further from here and introduce the panel.
Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome once again to the Miramar Dialogue. So this is the 3rd session of Miramar Dialogues, which is Conservation Lessons for the Generation Next. So I would like to formally introduce each of our panelists today. So Mrs. Norma Alvares, she is an advocate for the Bombay High Court and an activist and campaigner of social and environmental issues of public concern. For the past 25 years, Mrs. Alvarez has argued entirely free of cost around 200 public interest litigation cases in the Bombay High Court, the National Green Tribunal, and the Supreme Court on environmental issues, human rights, women's equality, animal welfare, etc. for Goa's NGOs and citizen groups. She has been appointed amicus curiae, friend of the court, by the High Court in several petitions, and is a member of the High Court's Legal Service Committee, which ensures the free legal aid to the weaker sections of the society. Mrs. Alvarez is also a well-known animal welfare activist. She is the president and founder trustee of People for Animals Goa, which has established several animal shelters in Goa to assist the authorities to control stray dog populations and provide relief to injured animals. For her publicly acknowledged work in relation with protection of the environment, women's empowerment and animal welfare, she has received several accolades, including the Padma Shri from the Government of India in 2002 and the Yashadamini Puraskar from the Government of Goa in 2003. Welcome. Next on our panel, we have Adrianna Faleiro. Adrianna is a student from the 9th grade at Vidya Vikas Academy School, Margao. She is a passionate sportswoman with a profound dedication to both karate and gymnastics, and is a national level competitor at these 2 disciplines. Adrianna is also an avid reader. She is passionate about singing and has secured victories in several state level competitions. Next we have Shaurya Shetgaonkar. Shaurya is a class 8 student at WWF-India Academy. He has a deep passion for reading in a wide array of literary genre. He is captivated by mathematics with a focus on its problem-solving aspects and holds a strong fascination for ancient history and cutting-edge technology. He enjoys time in nature, particularly within tranquility of the forest. So both, like Aditya has already introduced them, both Adrianna and Shaurya have performed excellently for the WWF Wild Wisdom Global Challenge 2024, where over 95 countries have participated globally. Adrianna and Shaurya represented Vidyavikas Academy School for Goa's state level championship and bagged the title of Goa State Champions. They were among the top 6 teams to compete for the National Championship for Wild Wisdom Global Challenge. Adrianna and Shaurya will be the moderators for the panel today. Please welcome them. Over to you.
I told you I was a princess girl. Now you're in karate, I'm nothing God, let's start.
So Norma, over to you. Our first question to you would be, what inspired you to become an environmental activist, and what was the one moment that you decided to dedicate your life to this purpose?
Okay. I'm not sure if there was a one moment, but I will answer the first question first. And I'm also not sure if I could rightly say that I've dedicated my life to environment only, because there are other things that I have done, like I have been running animal shelters. I do consider animals a part of environment also, so in that sense it is environment work. I've also administered mail order bookstore selling environment publications for 30 years. It was called the Other India Bookstore, and it recently folded up. So I've tried to be hands-on, working a kitchen garden at home, running the house and so on. But to answer your first question, I was born in the city, Mumbai, lived the first 20 plus years of my life in the city, and was in every sense a city girl. With marriage, my husband and I chose to come to Goa, and we began life to start a rural development project. And I lived in the taluka, Sattari taluka, which is way in the interior, and in a tiny village called Thane, which was at the foot of the Western Ghats. And it is there that I experienced nature firsthand, you can say. I remember the rains which were incessant, the streams flowing down the mountain which were beautiful. I was mesmerized by that sight. My 2 children were born there. But I also saw the people in the villages which were there who were almost powerless. They did not get several of the amenities and facilities, even like things like ration cards and all kinds of things that we in the cities take for granted. They had no idea that they were entitled to. And I also saw that in their poverty, the environment was their biggest asset. They had clean water, they had greenery all around them. But when that greenery had to be chopped down or some development project of the government came up, they had no means of saying, don't do it, or stop it, or that's not what we want. And that got me thinking in a very kind of militant way, you can say, that I will represent them in some forum. I will go and speak for them. I will be their spokesperson. I also decided, because I was a little bit cut off from academia, which I was generally used to, I decided to do my law. I could do not a correspondence course, but they were not so strict in those days about attendance. So I registered at the Shetgaonkar College. I I never attended a single class, but I answered my exams and I did well enough to get a scholarship each year to the next year. So I studied law and I had this desire to help these people to put their views across. And that is what you can say, the beginnings of my desire to become an environmental lawyer. We moved out of Thane several years later and we set up something called the Goa Foundation. And people in neighboring areas, villages, would come with problems saying that there is a hotel coming up in my area and they are closing the access. Now a combination of law, which is, you know what the law is, and a combination along with a desire to represent people is what eventually took me to the courts. And I began in a small way, starting with coastal ecology, but eventually moving up to several things. So there was no specific moment as such, but the initial successes that I did have in fighting for environment cases and in fighting for animal rights, which as I said I consider part of the environment. For example, my case to stop the shooting of stray dogs. That was a powerful message to me that what you cannot do by begging and pleading and writing letters in the papers and doing many other things, you can get with a court order. And it strengthened that my belief that if other avenues don't open and don't work, then there is the court, which is an avenue which looks at the law, and you've got to fit in with the framework of the law, and if you can prove that the law says this is what has to be done, you can get something done. So that is how I forayed from an academic life. I used to be a lecturer in college in Mumbai. From an academic life, I graduated and moved on to a lawyer in the high courts, and I took up only public interest litigation because that was my only interest. I was not interested in fighting for people's property rights or divorce cases or family settlements. That was never my interest in doing law. It was a sole interest that the environment is important to people, and if they want to fight for it, then I have the ability to represent what they want in a court.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question for you is, could you share a memorable moment that affirmed the importance of your work?
I think I just mentioned one of the earliest cases that I did was first it was the bullfights. Goa had this tradition of bullfights. I was a passionate animal activist also, and I thought that it is wrong for people to derive entertainment out of two animals, forcing them to fight, especially if they don't want to fight. Animals do fight for various reasons, but you cannot compel animals to fight. And I went to court on a simple issue that the law says that this cannot be done, and the court was with us. The Supreme Court also was with us. Similar was the case for stray dogs. So when you're able to save a large number of creatures, you can say trees, you can say animals, you can say sand dunes. When you get the ability to protect a big sector, it reaffirms that this is something worth doing.
Thank you, ma'am. So our next question to you would be, in recent years, we've seen the destruction of our mangroves in Goa, particularly due to infrastructure projects such as the Faleiro construction. Mangroves play a crucial role in maintaining coastal ecosystems and preventing soil erosion. What are your thoughts on the impact of such developments on Goa's environment, and how can we balance the need for development with the preservation of these vital ecosystems?
See, Goa has several ecological assets. Sand dunes, the hills, the lateritic hills, the rivers, the mangroves, the turtle nesting sites, the beaches, the banyan trees, all these are our ecological assets. You have picked on one, the mangroves. Now the mangroves are a buffer between the strength of the sea and the land. They come up on their own in certain places. Why do they come up there? Two reasons. One is they are a kind of protection for the hinterland which is behind them. The other, they are the areas where the fish will go and breed. They take cover, just like any human being. No woman will go and give birth in a public place. You will find a sheltered place wherever it is, because it's a very private act and you want what is your creation to be safeguarded. Similarly, the fish will go into these areas, spawning areas. They will breed there. The little fish will have places to move around and so on. So mangroves are a buffer zone. Now, what is their importance? Firstly, if you remove the buffer, you expose the interior to the vagaries of the sea. And the sea is hugely powerful. I mean, very pretty waves come on the beaches and we like the waves and we frolic in the sand and we dip our feet. But if you go out into the ocean, there are strong currents and there are huge consequences if you have tidal waves coming at you. Now, if there is a tidal wave coming at you or tsunamis, then mangroves will break the fall of these strong tidal waves. And that is why you have to have mangroves to protect your land. So apart from what protection they might give to the fish, for our own self-preservation, we need the mangroves. Otherwise, the sea comes in all its strength. And what does the sea do? It takes away chunks of land. You have what is called erosion. Huge areas of the beach get removed from where they are. You have seen Anjuna, where there are huge, now it's almost straight cliffs. Houses on the top would topple any time. Look at your area near Santa Cruz, where all the mangroves have been removed, or they died, or I don't know whatever happened to them. Some say they were poisoned, some say they died naturally. So these mangroves are there for protection. What can we do about it? Well, the first thing that we need to do is respect that they are there. We may not know why they are there. We don't know everything about nature. We don't know why nature has created hills, why they created 11 rivers to run through Goa, and why not just 2? And why some places don't have even a single river. We have no idea. But what we need to be humble about is we don't know everything. And so we respect and we try to learn. So respect the mangrove, which means don't chop them down. Do not have projects which will fill up the land. They may last for a short time, but eventually you have the sea, which is so much more powerful than you, which will take it away. So I would say respect the assets of nature, not just the mangroves. Take the sand dunes. Sand dunes are another buffer zone. They are nature's first line of defense. Have we realized that? We have hotel projects which come who want their visitors to have a first view of the sea. So they build a hotel behind, then they find the sand dune is in front, and so then they carve a path to the sand dune, and then they slowly remove the sand dune and go down to the sea. So mangroves, sand dunes are all put there by nature, and they're not permanent in that sense, means they're not fixed. This is a sand dune, it will remain like that. No, it may be less at some time, it may become bigger at some time, but nature is trying to protect the land behind, because that is the land created by nature. So all these ecological assets have to be respected, and we do our development, which was the latter part of your question. Whatever development we are doing, we do in areas which will not denude, destroy, remove these ecological assets, because we don't know the consequences thereof for ourselves.
The next question is, you have been fighting against the illegal extraction of ore. So what can we do to streamline this activity?
What is ore? Ore is a non-renewable asset. Non-renewable means it is limited. It's not going to be renewed like rain. Every year you get rain. Every year the rivers flow. and you get fresh water. Even your wells, they go down in the summer and then the monsoon starts and the water comes up. These are renewable resources. You can play around a little bit with renewable resources, you can take out a little bit extra and so on. But a non-renewable resource means you've got a certain quantity and it's fixed. So, why have we been fighting the illegal extraction of coal? It is because, I would say two things. One is, whatever we are extracting is being sent for export to other countries. It is not being used in our own country. So we are removing a permanent asset, a permanent resource. We are taking it, selling it to another country to enhance their industrial production or whatever they do with it. Which means we are giving it away for good. Why are we giving away something for good? Just because we don't know how important it is for the next generation, which is the second reason. If you have a permanent resource, do you finish it up in your own lifetime? Do you exhaust it so that the next generation, your generation which is coming up and the generation that you will bring forth will have no ore left? Because once it is over, it is over. So therefore, legally and worse still illegally, we should not exhaust a resource which is a limited resource in our own lifetime. The ore has been here for so many years. It was here when the Portuguese were here. It has remained because export was being done in restricted, limited quantities. But China had the Olympics and China was ready to buy and our miners were ready to sell. You are ready to sell anything at the price you get. You don't even try to bargain for the best price which you can get. You take what you get, you sell, you finish up the reserve. What happens to the next generation and what happens to this permanent resource? And it is for this reason that we went to stop illegal mining. Of course, another reason was they were fudging the records and the Goa government was getting very little, but that's a money story. We went to the court to stop the illegal mining and therefore the Supreme Court put a cap on the export of mineral ore. Not more than so much, so that you don't remove, exhaust and finish it in your own lifetime. That is about, in short, the reason.
That was a beautiful explanation, ma'am. So, our next question is related to the waters. With the amount of development taking place in our beautiful state of Goa, we could have a scarcity of water. How do we ensure a proper water supply?
That's why I drank some water. Well, Goa has been blessed with plenty of water. Maybe as a young generation, you may not know it, but your audience will know. Everywhere we had wells in Goa, right? We had wells. We never knew about piped water. We drank from wells, we drank from streams which were pure. We had, Goa is a wet area. You dig a little bit and you get water. It is not difficult. Two things happen. One is pollution of the groundwater. Pollution of the groundwater because industries began to throw their effluent into the groundwater, corrupt it. Coastal areas, they began to dig tube wells, dig deep enough so that the salt water came inside. So we destroyed our wells. In other places, the government said, we'll bring you water, close the wells down. So we did not maintain our water supply on the hope and the promise of government that it will bring water. Government has taken loans from Japan, there's something called the JICA or JICA loans, and you're building dams all over to supply piped water. But piped water goes to those who will bid for it higher. So it goes to all the hotels, it goes to all these places first, and then last of it trickles down into the villages. So what can we do? First and foremost, I think we have to protest the approvals that are being given for swimming pools by the town planning department all over Goa. Every project is coming up with 10 villas, 10 swimming pools. 20 villas, 20 swimming pools. This is the latest craze that not Goans, that people from outside who come to Goa, who want to enjoy Goa, want to make demands on. And sadly, our town planning department is giving these approvals for swimming pools per villa. Every project says we will not take the public water. We will bring it by tankers. But may I ask, which tankers, from where is the tankers going to get it? From Karnataka? Are they going to go to Delhi and bring? No, they are bringing from neighboring areas. So what has government got to do? Stop giving permissions for swimming pools. Swimming pool, hotel. Go to a hotel, swim in the swimming pool, or go to the sea and swim in the sea. But not in these projects which are residential projects. Second thing, of course, is conservation of water. I think rainwater harvesting should be compulsory now for all new projects, and if possible for even ordinary people's homes, install the rainwater facilities so that we can recharge our groundwater. And the third thing is to find ways to stop the industries from polluting the groundwater. I think if people can resurrect their wells, I don't know how much this would be possible. I'm not knowledgeable that much in it. But if we can restore our wells, then we will get our own supplies and we will be confident of water even in the summer months. In our home, we always cleaned our well and we still use well water. I have taken the government water, but I use it only for the gardening purpose. But all household domestic use of water comes from our well. So I think if we do these three things, we should be able to better conserve our water.
Thank you, ma'am. Our land and sea have been polluted by plastic waste. What can we do to stop this rampant pollution?
I have to ask you people to answer that question. You can't ask me this question. What to do about plastic waste? What are your ideas? Tell me. Come on, surely you must be having an idea. I told you I'll ask you a question.
Well, the
yes.
first step we can do is that the government has to enforce stricter laws.
Yes.
It has to be that not just single-use plastic. Even though they banned it, there's still a lot going on of that. There have to be much stricter laws. Only for when it's actually required. Only then can we use the plastic.
Yeah, I'm already finding a lot of places which are now giving you paper bags. Have you seen the shift? A lot of people are giving paper bags. They're asking people to take cloth bags. People are bringing these things. But as Adrianna rightly says, you have to have strict laws. You have to have the manufacturers to stop producing the plastic which comes into the markets. And I think it's become very difficult to reuse plastic because you get plastic every day. Milk packets come with plastic. How much to wash and reuse? What do you put into those things? We have to give them, there is a plastic which is created. But enforcement of the laws and the quality of the plastic, because those thin plastics are the ones which are causing the maximum damage. And apart from finding ways to stop the use of plastic, which I think many people are doing, we have to aggressively ensure that plastic does not clog the streets, clog the rainwater areas, because right now we are sending all our plastic to Karnataka to be used in a fuel factory. But the clogging of fields, river channels, these areas are the ones, even our Made river, there is tons of plastic over there, picnickers which are going, all these are small things that you can do to stop. But the problem of plastic is really such a huge problem that apart from completely stopping it or banning it, I don't know how we are going to go much ahead in terms. But thank you for your suggestion.
Now, for our next question, it's more focused towards youth. So, how can young people contribute meaningfully to conservation efforts?
Okay. I would say, first of all, be aware of your surroundings. See, we think that there are beautiful places elsewhere. We have to go to Mali, we have to go to some forest area, they are worth protecting. No, our own areas are worth protecting. The first thing I would say to young people is, can you be aware of your surroundings? What are the trees that are there? Are there any ponds? Are there any water sources? Are there any special trees like banyan trees which are sacred trees? Are there things that we need to protect and preserve? What are the birds there? What are the fruit and flower trees? What is the nature of the population? What are the people doing? If you are aware of your surroundings, how does it help? It helps because if someone is going to do something in some area, like somebody is going to chop a tree and you are aware of these things, you can take some action. You can go and find out whether there is a permission given for that. Because for example, if you chop a tree without permission, well, all that you will do is pay a penalty. You can't put that tree back. So, if you are observant of your area, find out what kind of protection is available for those ecological assets. If there is a pond, is it listed among the water sources, among the ponds of Goa? Because government is doing these things. They are listing the water areas of Goa. They are listing the important trees of Goa. Some things are being done, but there is no protection coming from society. So as young people, be aware and be alert. Be alert to find out what is happening and to try and make a complaint. Because who do you make a complaint to? You need to find out first. If it's a forest, what is the place that you make a complaint to? If it's town planning, somebody is cutting a hill, who do you make a complaint to? Don't wait till half the hill is gone. So be proactive in protecting your own neighborhood and your own area. Because that contains important ecological assets which you can protect and preserve. From there, you will get the hang of how to go on to larger things. Another thing that you can do is, when you see some project being advertised by government in the newspapers, which is they are giving you a draft notification about some scheme that they are going to have. Read it, study it, understand it, and object to it if you don't think it is right. We hardly ever object to things. You people have learned in college a lot of things, in school a lot of things, will go on to college. Young people know a lot about the world, but we don't put it to good use. So if you make your protests, if government receives a lot of protests against a project, mining leases are advertised, bridges are being built, something is going on here, there. Make your voice felt, make your voice heard. I think that will go a long way to protecting the environment.
I totally agree with your views, ma'am. Pass over the next question to Shaurya.
How can researchers and activists collaborate to make sustainable solutions?
What kind of researchers are you talking about?
Researchers, as in the sense, environmentalists who are working in the lab and not on the field as such.
So are you talking about people who are in universities, for example, like that kind of researchers?
Yes.
Or scientific researchers, or what? I'm not quite sure I understand how you mean by researchers.
Researchers are in the sense people who work in the lab and universities, so who work as in the microscopic view and not in the whole macroscopic view of what is going on and how it will help the world.
Okay, so you're talking of, let's say, academics vis-a-vis activists. Okay?
Yes.
Very often academics are closely involved in the subject of their research, and their interest is in reaching a particular goal, and they are very less concerned with whatever is happening around. And activists, on the other hand, are protesters. They are opposed to certain things, they don't want certain projects, but they don't have an alternative. And I have seen it very often when you go to court and you protest some activity which is happening, the court is also sometimes stumped because, okay, it agrees with you that that is wrong. But what is the alternative? What is your solution? What do we do? And that is a place where perhaps if researchers are willing to take their heads out of the book or the test tube or the lab where they are and see whether they can offer some kind of an alternative view to activists, this is something which could be fine-tuned and taken as an alternative solution to a problem. Because when you go to court, and my experiences with the courts, and therefore I restrict my comments in this area, the courts always say, don't bring us the problem only, bring us the solution also. So for example, if we are opposed to, for example, huge residential complexes which are coming up, what is the solution? One solution that we could say is, please don't let them have swimming pools. That is one thing one could easily offer to the courts. We could say, all right, the buildings are being done, but let them not have these pools because that will drain out the water. Or you could when we oppose, for example, hotels in the coastal areas, we asked for the pathway, access to the beach. Siddhartha Goa was one famous case where the hotel had closed the access to the beach completely and given an access which nobody was able to use because that access led onto the rocks and it was roundabout going here and there. We were opposed to certain of the buildings. We couldn't quite get that. We got it in the Supreme Court, but the Goa government changed the policies and so on. But the court said, no, access we will give. Straight through the hotel down to the beach. Now these are solutions. This is a place where researchers can help activists. When we are fighting, not war, are fighting the Section 17(2) changes which are being made to town planning laws, where any individual can ask for a change of zone. We went to researchers to give us a graph chart because graphs, tables, they are very, very important. They are impactful. Now, when a court sees that, well, this is the staggering number of changes that have been made because of this new law which will destroy our agricultural fields, destroy our orchards, destroy our mangrove areas. The court says, well, we have to do something about this. And government does not necessarily have the answer. So I think that researchers must pay attention to what is happening outside the laboratory, outside the world as well. And if they can come along with activists and offer solutions in the form of information that they know, then activists can present solutions to authorities. Sometimes you go to a government authority, but they say, then what else can we do? If you have an alternative solution, like we had in the case of the porgore trees which were trying to fell, we said that the certain trees, banyan trees and all, we will not allow them to be felled. If at all, they have to be relocated. Then they got somebody from Bangalore to come and help to relocate the trees. I don't know how successful it will be, but we have made a beginning because government now knows that citizens are not going to allow 100-year-old and 200-year-old trees to be just felled for a road. They want the replanting to be done somewhere. So these are solutions which can come up from researchers if they are interested in the world which is around them and not confined to the test tube or the laboratory only. Have you got a lot of questions more?
Yeah, just a few.
All right. I'm going to ask you some questions. Can I ask you now?
Of course.
All right. Tell me, what are your favorite subjects in school? Do you like school and what are your favorite subjects? All answers are right.
Let's say I prefer school better than staying at home and studying.
Okay.
Yeah, and favorite subjects, it would be math and some other subjects like science mostly. But I also prefer languages and library periods.
Okay. What about you, Adrianna?
So my favorite subject mainly is science because I just love learning about everything. And I would say some of the social sciences as well.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you another question. If you didn't have to study what you have to study, what would you like to study?
Well, I would like to research more on animals because I am particularly interested in that. So, would be good for me too.
Okay, and you?
Data sciences.
You're still in the school syllabus.
I wouldn't say data sciences is the school syllabus because people don't actually realize how much it is different from the school math we study.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for humoring me with your answers. Yeah, okay. So I'll answer now.
Okay, so our next question to you would be, what do you see as the biggest environmental challenges Goa will face in the next decade?
Water. Without a doubt, it will be water. Because you have sea level rise, you have climate change, you have our glaciers melting and flowing into the ocean. You have already scarcity of water because we have given up several of our own sources of water to rely on a government source of water when we know the government is unreliable. So we give up what we possess, we rely on something else. We have vast development coming out. You have no idea of what all is being approved in the town planning department for Goa. But you know, if you have read the papers, that our lands are being converted from orchard, from plateau, from agriculture, from natural cover, from irrigated lands. There is something called CADA, Command Area Development Authority. They irrigate certain lands. There we have spent crores of rupees to irrigate those lands. Today the Water Resources Department says we have no objection if it is converted. All these lands are being converted to settlement. And what does settlement mean? Not a cottage house, not a one-story building, huge complexes. That Bhutani project has got some 700 villas, 700 swimming pools. Look at the number. These are areas which are going to cover our ground. And if they cover the ground, which means they will put cement on the ground because these people don't like to walk on mud. They want everything nicely organized. All these areas, if they are covered, where will the rainwater go? Even if we get the rainwater, it will flow into the sea. What will these projects demand? They will demand water for domestic use, for swimming pool, for household, for all kinds of things. For flush tanks, do you know how tourists use the flush in the toilets? Not the way you and I use it in the homes. So we are going to exhaust whatever water we have. And in the next, whatever, generation or in a couple of years, you're going to have terrible shortage of water. I feel that is the biggest problem. In addition to, I would think, traffic congestion which may be there for Goa, because although we are expanding our roads, we are increasing the car offers. Every day you have new cars which come and new EMIs and new schemes, buy back, pay back, whatever. So these may be, and with traffic comes air pollution. Goa may become like Delhi. Then I don't know where the Delhi people, where they will go, I'm not bothered about, but where we will go, I don't know. Because all other places around are similar. So I think this is a dire scenario for Goa, which one is really afraid to be a part of. So unless we get up and start protesting now and start saying don't do this much of things, we are not going to make things better for you people and the generation which comes after.
Your next question is, ma'am, there are a lot of fields in agriculture, fields and agricultural lands in Goa, which are made unusable due to various factors. How can we prevent this from happening?
See the various, why are the lands become unusable? It is not that the lands are poor. See, lands in mining areas have become, fields in mining areas have become unusable. Why? Because the mining silt flowed into those fields. Shetgaonkar is a good example. 80 hectares of prime agricultural land. Goa's rice basket it was. You got 2 crops a year, you had enough rice to feed all the people. In mining areas, agricultural land has got spoiled, I will agree. But in other areas, agricultural land has not become unusable. It's just that people are not using it. People are not plowing. People are not going to the fields. Part of the reason is that we don't have enough young people, or there are no people who want to do agriculture because it is not considered a prestigious job. So we get people from outside. We get the Karnataka workers used to come at one time in hordes and droves. But then they raise the rates, then it becomes not profitable. Now we have machines which do the plowing. That is a big saving, and I think there is a resurgence of agriculture in the past 1 or 2 years. There is a Father Quadras who designed and devised machines which help to plow the land and sow the seeds and then harvest the crops. Now all over you have harvesters. So the reasons for not doing agriculture have reduced, I feel, with the mechanization to some extent which has come in. But what is stopping people from using it is because if you sell it, you get a huge amount of money. The party who buys it finds a way to get it converted into a settlement area and build a big building on it. So people see that there is a better return if you don't plow the field. Because then in the application which you file for conversion of your land from agriculture to settlement, you say the land is, as you rightly said, land is unusable. And you tell truck owners, dump your waste material onto these lands, they'll become more unusable. Then you go to the town planning, you make an application, and your land is said, all right, this is not an agricultural field anymore, you can use it now for building. So the problem is that there are alternatives now to doing agriculture by selling the land and making different use of it, which was never the case earlier because fields were never used for anything other than plowing.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So now we have one of the last questions.
Oh, wonderful.
So if you could implement one policy change in Goa today, what would it be?
Consult the people. In whatever policy the government is thinking of, I would say consult people. You want to build a bridge, you want to build a highway, you want to change the law and make more areas into settlement, you want to do mining, you want whatever you want to do, whatever policies you have, put it to the people. Why? Because I think the people in Goa are knowledgeable, they are qualified. We have a lot of engineers, doctors, architects all over Goa. We are skilled people. We are not people who do not understand these things. We are able to help, to design, we are able to rationalize, and we are also not selfish. If a policy is put before a panchayat, not a, but several panchayats, and people are asked for their inputs, they will tell you whether they want Goa to become a coal hub or not. Whether the money that you get from the sale of the ore is what we want, or do we want our fields and our hills, they will tell. And it's not that they will tell you for their own personal house or their personal gain. Goans are known to look at Goa as a whole, to love Goa, to feel for Goa, whether they are living in England or whether they are living in Canada, their heart beats for Goa. And they will help the government, they would help the government to rationalize its policies. So whatever policy the government thinks of doing, I believe that if it consults with people in an open manner and gets their inputs, even if they want to do the policy, it could be shaped much better and turn out much better than if they do it in an in-house manner where the chief minister and the town planning minister and the mines minister, we want this, do it. So that is my take.
You answered that question beautifully, ma'am.
I hope somebody listens to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would like to open the floor for discussion. A few questions from the public could be invited now.
Have these two people left anything else? They are simply wrung it dry. Anyway. Yes, please. Sure.
I'm actually a teacher.
Yeah.
So these are my students.
Oh, lovely. Bright students.
I would like to know if some students would like to do some research in microplastic, especially like we have done some work on that because these are nowadays the fish has the microplastic and that's how it is entering human body. Any suggestion? How can they approach because they say you have to come to one age to do the research, but my students, they are capable enough to begin with the research at this age. Any support or any suggestion from your side?
If you're asking me for the academic framework, I'm sort of out of my depth in which authority they would have to approach. Is that what you're asking
Yeah,
me?
because they say like now research in the sense they have to do their masters and then they have to come there to do the research and all. But some children, they know, they are smart.
But haven't you read in the paper, sometimes I hear in the US of some 14-year-old boy who has discovered something, and I feel that, even if you cannot get academic support, if your own institute can set up make some kind of a setup for a research project for a student who shows some kind of a promise and starts with a position paper and how the research will be carried on. By the time that research is completed, the student would be at least at maybe 16 or 17 if they start at 14. And I'm sure you'll be able to get publicity through newspapers, through these research kind of magazines, which would reinforce. But you need to make a setup within the institute, I feel, before you go to a university and ask for something like that.
So basically the institution has to...
I think that the institute sets up some kind of a project and said, this is what we want to do. We believe, and you have to set up the criteria and all for it. The student must have a minimum of, there would be an age factor and the basic qualifications that they would have an aptitude which somebody can recommend. That is the best I can suggest right now.
Thank you.
I have a question for
Yes, please.
For our two young stars.
Oh, wonderful.
So Adrianna and Shaurya, what is your opinion the impact tourism has on our environmental?
Well, of course, there is that the tourists
Coming from young minds, and what do you all see could be done to make it sustainable?
Yes. So, of course, the tourists, they come here from different places and then they come and pollute Goa, which is not practical, and it's very sad to see that all our nature is dying out very slowly because of this pollution that is occurring. So,
What would your advice be to the governments?
So,
You
before
should-
that, I'd say that the reason tourists pollute or kind of in an indirect way destroy the environment is because they do not belong to the place. They do not have that sense of belonging, so they do not actually care about what's going to happen. They're going to be there for 4 or 5 weeks, maybe maximum, and then they go away. So I'd say that, of course, stricter laws, that's a must. But for them to actually know what Goa is, they should not only, you can't actually stop it as a whole, but it should go on from their side as well as our side. Because we should, in one of the beaches in Goa, it has restricted it to only tourists, which have foreign green cards or passports. So I'd say that the Goan government should make changes for this.
Do you think that it's more that the policies are in place, but there's no follow-up?
Yes.
They should
Enforce.
enforce. Yes.
So if you had a voice, that would be your suggestion or your demand from the government to follow up on the policies.
Yes. And it has to be stricter. Even though the policies are in place right now, a lot of them do not follow it. Like, it is already illegal, yet they still do it. So this is a problem, that it must be stricter enforced.
Thank you.
You see all these photographs which come, three fellows drinking in the water there. Now there are so many rules. And we had also suggested to the government to put up the boards, large boards which say do not do this. But government was very reluctant, saying that we don't want to, that will discourage the tourists if they see these boards up. I don't think it discourages them. They come anyway, and they should know the rules, they should know the regulations. Like when you have in old Goa, for example, the church, it will say that you cannot enter with shorts and everything. Okay, they keep with you the solution. They keep with you one shawl, you can put it around you and go. But you do a skirt. I have been to Iran, where you, in the mosque you have to wear that. So they keep it for you. You don't have it. They don't. They say you can't go in, but here is something. So they say I will not use your thing, then stay out.
Okay.
That's it. So you have a restriction and you have a solution along with it, so that people, you have lifeguards. They can patrol the beaches, take off those guys, take the bottle away from those guys, things like that. Because there has to be some respect, and I agree with Shaurya that the people. They don't care.
Yes.
But look at other countries where we visit. Do we care about how Singapore is? No, but we are so scared that some cop will catch us if we chuck it on the road, because everything is clean. So we don't do it. If we can't find a dustbin, we put it in our pockets and go home. But here, nobody is bothered.
Exactly.
So there has to be strict enforcement of whatever laws we have. Agreed.
The enforcement is.
Maybe stricter fines or something like that.
Stricter vigilance.
Vigilance, yes.
They let people off very easily, without being strict. Yeah.
Ma'am, Goa Foundation is a beacon of hope for Goa. How can the general public contribute towards Goa Foundation?
Well, are you talking in terms of contribution of assistance? Then we have, for example, in Panjim, we have a place called a Citizens Hub. It is just on the back side of that Fidalgo Hotel, somewhere on the 6th floor. Any person with qualities of skills, not physical skills, but say I'm willing to do research, I'm willing to go and find out information. If you go to that Citizens Hub, there is always somebody. There is a lawyer there, and there is also activists there from 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m. And you say, see, I am a person who has done my architecture. I am now retired. I would like to help. I'm sure there are jobs which can be done by citizens, because we need a lot of help always on data. Data collection is what we have. If you have computer skills, that can also be done, because there is research work that we need. We need to find out past trends, we need to find out in order to project for the future and so on. So that kind of help is always welcome. Any citizen, if you go there, and of course they will ask you some questions and they will try to find out, because we also don't want infiltrators who will come there and try to get information out of them and go somewhere else. But yes, we do welcome help which can be done by any citizen.
I have a build-on question to what ma'am said.
Yeah.
So
Please say.
Goa initially from being pristine beaches and thick forests and everything has now grown on to become like noisy pubs and clubs and all the clubbing culture that has come up. Do you think maybe government of Goa was a little responsible for this, responsible tourism that has meandered towards the noisy beaches, and maybe government can now again step in and say, no, this is not to be done. This can be done in this manner or something like that. And again, how Goa Forward can assist in policy changes or something like that.
See, tourism began in Goa not because the Goa government decided to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Tourism began in Goa on its own. The hippie culture of them. They did not do anything to the beaches. They did not affect anything. It is the charter tourism which brought in crowds of people, and Goa became a thing to see, to comment upon, and to report back home. That in Goa there are these beaches, there are these foreigners, there are these, you can walk hand in hand, you can go in a bikini, you can walk about in shorts, you can go in a sleeveless top. This is the information which went back. So Goa became, for people in India, a place of license, where what you cannot do in your hometown, you can do in Goa. So everything that you could not do there, you found that, okay, here it's acceptable, you can kiss on the beach, you can put your hand on somebody, you can do things, you can see, look at people, whatever. So the image of Goa has taken a bit of a beating. And along with the image of Goa came the drug culture which came into Goa. And the drug culture brought in the noise pollution, because in order to dance all night, you can't just dance with drinking tea and coffee, you can't dance. You have to have something which will get you a little bit high and give you that energy to last until 3 a.m. So to think that people can dance all night without anything is also a kind of a misnomer. I know there are soft drugs, there are certain soft drugs, but we went on to hard drugs as well. And that is how Goa became famous as a drug place. Now, unless there is some strict enforcement of the drug laws, which are the rules regarding the drug enforcement, you cannot stop this kind of people from wanting to come into Goa. But if the Goa government want it, they don't. Because every year you have the Sunburn Festival, and Sunburn has tried to have it once in Pune, but the charm was not there, they said, so they come back to Goa. So there is an image of Goa. You go anywhere in India, and I go to meetings sometimes, and you tell them I come from Goa. Ah, Goa.
The world.
So it looks as if in Goa we are only sitting on the beaches, drinking, smoking, and eating something. Nobody believes we go to work here in Goa. So for this young lot, and that is why then people say, okay, you don't have the jobs here and so on. So it is for the government to turn its policies to get the kind of tourists that we want. What are the tourists we are getting now? We're getting tourists who come in the bus, who sit on the side of the road and make their food and eat it and go back in the bus. There they sit, the children sit on the side of the road, they do all their toilet there and they go because there are open fields. This is the level we have come down to. This is not the kind of tourism which is going to bring any money to those who are investing in tourism. I'm talking about the shack owners, I'm talking about the hotels, the people. They are investing in tourism. But we're getting the footfalls, you crowd the beaches, but you eat your dal, roti, chapati, whatever. I have nothing against it, but I'm saying because nobody stops you from doing those things by the side of the road. That is why. So government has to relook at its policies and try and attract a better class of tourists who will patronize your tourism schemes that you have and keep Goa clean and beautiful.
I would now like to invite RJ Akash from 92.7 Big FM, who are our radio partners for this event, to take a few questions.
You're still going to ask questions?
I'm very sorry for that, ma'am.
I thought you were going to come and put up a music show for me.
I wish I could do that.
Alright.
Hi guys, myself RJ Akash. I host evening show on 92.7 Big FM, and we are the radio partner with the WWF-India Dialogues. And today I'm very sorry, ma'am, I'll be asking you a few more questions today, which have come from the listeners. And can I ask?
Yes, please.
Yes. The first name of the listener is Adrianna, who's a student, asking Goa, as just we spoke about the tourism. It depends. The question is related to the tourism only. Goa's economy heavily relies on tourism, but it is also significant environmental. There is also significant environmental pressure. So, what strategies do you think can be implemented to ensure sustainable tourism while protecting Goa's natural ecosystem?
I think we need to decide on the kind of tourists that we want. I think we need to have a list of do's and don'ts for responsible tourism, which we should put up in all places, bus stands, on our website, at airports, at all our public, at all the tourism sites that we go to, so that people know what is expected of them. I think we need to have adequate places where tourists can put waste so that they don't throw it around. I think we need to have facilities like cycles, for example, for people to use if they can go from one place to another, so that you don't cause too much of pollution in this state of Goa.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next question is from Pankaj Goekar asking, the coastline of Goa is facing threats like erosion, overfishing and pollution. So what specific measures can be taken to preserve marine biodiversity and protect coastal ecosystem?
Stop LED fishing. LED fishing is a fish with lights which take all the fish from the ocean and put it up, they throw what is not wanted, they bring the... Stop that. See that the Shetgaonkars are able to fish in the 5-kilometer stretch and the trawlers don't come into that stretch because that is soft measures for fishing and the trawlers should fish in the open sea. These are measures which will protect the fish resources of Goa, which are otherwise going to be exhausted within the next few years also.
And my last two questions, the second last one. Omkar Kiroskar is asking, with increasing urbanization in Goa, what steps can be taken to minimize the impact on its biodiversity, particularly its forest and wildlife habitats?
Well, sadly, Mr. Omkar, the problem is that Goa's policies are going to lead to more and more urbanization because the town planning department in the Goa government is granting permissions for more and more residential complexes, hotels, urbanized areas through its policy of allowing people who are owners of property to convert their lands from orchards, agriculture to settlement. So I don't see any way in which we are going to be able to reduce urbanization. It's going to get only worse unless we can bring the town planning department to heel.
Yes. And the last question is from Ravi Deshmukh asking, what would be the responsibilities of parents and teachers towards making young generation aware of the environment?
Well, parents should correct their habits first because children learn by example more than by what you tell them. So if parents, for example, will reduce the use of vehicles, walk a little more, get a cycle maybe, use the bus service if it's possible, because I know Goa buses don't have a good record. Try to have a lower impact of your own personal life on the environment. Grow something, keep a vegetable garden. I think children will emulate their parents and be able to follow what they are doing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. We'll go to the end of the questions, I guess.
So now we come to the end of the panel discussion. I think it was a wonderful experience having Norma here and answering all the questions so patiently. I have the last question. So my question is, have you ever been interviewed by young moderators?
No.
And what was your experience? What was your
This is the first time that I've had two young people ask questions, apart from my children who keep asking questions all the time. But to have two young people who have, I can see, done a lot of research and they have prepared, they must have studied whatever they've done and so on, and put their questions so eloquently forward, and also been game to answer the questions that I put to them. I think it's a great experience, and I must thank you for not putting some old fellow but giving me two young people to ask. Thank you so much.
As a mark of appreciation, we have this WWF label pin. So I'd like to offer you a label pin. And you have a name tag. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I thank the audience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thank the audience for being here, and we continue the Miramar